There are growing fears across the United States and around the world about cyber attacks and what it could mean for every aspect of our life. And here to talk about that is Todd Wade. He's a chief information security officer who has a terrific new book out. It is titled Cybercrime: Protecting Your Business, Your Family, and Yourself. And Todd joins us. Todd, first of all, thanks for being on the program. What prompted you to write this?
In the programs I've been working with and the companies and organizations I've been working with, we are investing a lot in technical solutions. But over and over, we're finding that our chief losses are coming through human hacks. And so if you look at our losses, it comes either through cyber frauds or cyber extortions. And it's coming through new technologies that appear new to people. And this book is to really shine a light on the methods cyber criminals use, and to really prepare people as they see new technologies. As they come around the corner, they can recognize these attacks easier, whether in the business place or whether at home. And this is what the book really goes deep in, along with numerous other examples.
When people hear about the cybercrime getting a human access, I think, for example, of the strange email that I got over social media from my mom saying, "Did you hear who died?" And if you click on that link, well, then suddenly you're being phished and whatnot. Is that the sort of thing, or is it even more complex now?
It's more complex. Right now, a lot of media attention is on email. But what's happening now is you're not so ready for it on WhatsApp. You're not so ready for it on Facebook Messenger. You're definitely not ready for it on a Zoom call. And so anything that used to communicate with you can be an attack vector for cyber criminals. And this is where they're moving towards, because they're having greater success on these methods, and people just aren't prepared for them, companies and individuals.
So these are platforms that are, I suppose, they don't have as many layers of security or protection as sort of a typical email does, and therefore easier access, and the criminals like to go where access is perhaps easiest for them. What are the sort of cyber attacks that you see playing out that are, say, most dangerous to a business?
Most dangerous to a business is really, if you look at where we spend our attention, our budget, most companies are spending an ever increasing amount of money on security products. But for many of these attacks, the security products do little use because you're hacking the human element of it. So that when you hack the human element of it, this is where you're going to see an increased amount of attacks. This is where you're going to see greater success. They're already seeing greater success, and it's easier. It's easier to hack someone it is than to spend time trying to figure out how to hack a company. And if you can do that in scale, that's a significant amount of financial gain for cyber criminals.
So whether somebody's trying to protect their business or protect their family, I've got a daughter who uses Facebook Messenger. I mean, what can we do to try to put up a wall of security?
There's two aspects of this. There's the technical aspect, which I discovered in the book, which just basic practices: use MFA when available, complex passwords, password manager. But on the flip side, many of these attacks, as I mentioned previously, your technical safeguards will be of little use. So this is where understanding the emotional drivers and the persuasion techniques that cyber criminals will play on you, and this way teaching your children to play on this. And I cover sextortion in this book for children. Understanding these methods, so when you see them being played out in front of you, you'll have a better chance of saying, "Oh, wait a second, this is a play. This is a technique that I read about." Then I can recognize that and do better steps to protect yourself.
We've heard from law enforcement that they're seeing a number of cases where somebody will, because be able to mimic a voice and grab a photograph and be able to say, "Hey, we have kidnapped your kid. You better, deliver us a lot of money right now." That's a form of this sort of attack, right?
That's a cyber extortion attempt. And if you think about extortion, the average individual has never really been physically extorted in their life. How often has your mother, father been, received a threatening call, or their family's been kidnapped? So when the same emotional drivers happen to them and digitally, they're just not prepared for it. And so this is why they get caught out. They get caught out, and oftentimes end up paying cyber criminals before they have a chance to realize that it was all a con, the entire thing.
A lot of us think of criminals in general, or cyber criminals being, people in a basement somewhere, in a dark, basement, maybe wearing dark clothes or whatever it is, and typing away. But it's far more sort of now organized, right?
It is gone professional. There are professional. I can even imagine how many professional call centers there are around the world, in India, Ukraine, Philippines, Russia. They are trained like normal salespeople. They are trained up on all the latest criminal techniques, and it runs just like you would expect a business, only that they're criminal enterprises, and very far removed from a lone individual. This is organized crime, and in some stages, nation states that are running these centers, and they're just very, very professional, which makes them even more dangerous now, because then they learn and they can really target their attacks on the individuals.
Is there a particular typical, or dare I say, popular among cyber attackers type of attack that the average family, say in the United States, or the average small business owner might conceivably face?
Yeah, there's just such a large range of them. There's such a large range, and if I were to say, it's always about majority of the times, getting you into an emotional state. So if you're getting a text message, if you're getting an email, you're getting any kind of a communication method where they're trying to get you excited. There's a time element here. There's some kind of urgency or something that happens. If you don't act now, something terrible is going to happen. And many times it's plausible, and people instantly will get rattled from this. Fear is a great emotional driver. So be on the lookout for anything like this. And oftentimes it's people being impersonated. So this makes it even more difficult if it's people being impersonated, because then, what do? How do you verify who this person is that you're talking to? A
lot of us are hopeful that our government can somehow come up with new ways of regulating and making it more difficult for cyber attacks to happen, whether it's individually or to institutions. How is our government doing in terms of preparing and anticipating where cyber attacks are coming from?
For technical cyber attacks, I think our government is doing a really good job. They have some great resources here. But you have a situation where cybercrime is low risk, high reward. And you have, as I mentioned, a lot of the cyber frauds and cyber extortions are done on the human element. And this is significantly harder to defend against. This is where technical solutions aren't enough to defend against. So this is where international cooperation, how do you punish these individuals? How do you punish a cyber criminal in a country that doesn't extradite? What kind of mechanisms, international cooperation can you put together to really get not just you combating this, get multiple countries involved in battling this?
And are those conversations happening between governments, between law enforcement agencies and prosecutors?
They're happening. There's a lot of activity. You have the US working closely with Interpol, other countries. There is progress. There just needs to be a lot more of it, a lot more.
Are you, well, first of all, tell me what you see coming around the corner. I mean, I know sometimes it's difficult to project. I remember, look, was it 20 years ago, you get an email from somebody or says, you get a letter from somebody says, your great uncle in whatever it is, somewhere in Africa, was a prince and you've been rewarded with a huge sum of money, just give us your bank account. And it was sort of like, ha. Now, we're 20 years since that and we're here at this very sort of sophisticated place. What's coming over the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
If people want to know, there's a lot of conversation of how much data about you is online. And this was just one small example. Your data can be used to target you and really personalize the attacks against you. And with AI around the corner, cyber criminals are going to be able to do this in scale. Because now they have to, do it one at a time, but pretty soon they'll be able to get these spam emails or whatever, these mass emails. They won't be mass, they'll be targeted to you personally. This makes it much more effective. So you can expect to see a scaling up. I think everyone agrees this problem is going to get worse as the technology advances, if the defenses aren't in place to combat this.
And how optimistic are you that the literacy that we all need to have for these defenses is coming, or are you pessimistic that we're just so far beyond the curve that there's no reason to be hopeful?
I think I think it's worrisome at the moment. I think the sheer scale of the losses that are just continuing to increase is worrisome. And we're doing there's a lot of great security professionals doing some great work with this, but something is going on where we're just seeing an increase and just keeps getting worse and worse. So I think more attention needs to be placed on particularly the human element and how we can protect people on the human element.
And by loss, you're talking, never mind whatever people's dignity or sense of security, but there's also a huge financial drain that all of us may face individually, as well as our businesses.
Huge financial drain. I mean, just last year, it was a $7 billion loss in the FBI, that FBI was reporting, but even that is wildly underreported. They figure that number is 4 to 5 times higher. And that doesn't even include the psychological impact it has on people for this.
And Todd, one more time again, for people who are looking up saying, oh my God, this is horrible, what can I do? Again, remind everybody, what can you do if you're a business owner or if you've got a family and you're just worried about trying to do everything you can to protect them?
Understand the persuasion techniques. There are 6 core persuasion techniques I discuss. Understand how these play. And when you see them, when you recognize these persuasion techniques, pause and give yourself time to think before you act. Don't act when you see these messages. Just stop and give yourself, get out of your emotional state before you do any action.
Todd Wade, his new book is called Cybercrime: Protecting Your Business, Your Family, and Yourself. It is a must read for all of us. Todd, thanks for coming on the program and sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Great. Good talking, David.